Hey, what's going on, Guardians? My name is The Black Link, coming back at you on Thursday, March 18th, 2021, with another issue of the Bungie Weekly Blog, This Week at Bungie. Rounding off another full week of Destiny 2 with some exciting information about some changes that are going to be coming to the game within the next week or so. Of course, earlier this week we had the release of Destiny 2 Update 3.1.1, I do believe. It had quite a few quality of life changes. Next week, we're going to be getting a big update for Stasis. We covered in last week's TWAB. A lot of those Stasis changes in Crucible are going to be going live next week. So if you happen to miss out on some of those incoming Sandbox changes, go back and watch last week's TWAB. I'll have a link to it down in the description box below. But of course, with this week, we got the release of Grandmaster Nightfalls, and along with them, Grandmaster Nightfall Adept rewards. Really excited about this. If you haven't heard, you can earn an Adept version of the Swarm in this week's Grandmaster Nightfall Sepix Prime. I know a lot of people out there have been grinding out for those and getting some really ridiculous rolls of that LMG. Personally, haven't gotten one yet. Cannot wait to finally get my hands on one though. Do remember though that Grandmaster Nightfalls are in-game activities. You're really going to want to be somewhere around the 1320s before you start trying to tackle those things. But if you aren't, no worries. Next week, you're going to have a great opportunity since Lord Saladin will be returning to the tower with the Iron Banner. That's right, it's that time again. Saladin's going to be back on March 23rd at 10 a.m. reset time through March 30th. And of course, alongside the Iron Banner, we'll also have Double Valor live. Of course, Iron Banner is always a great place to get a bunch of pinnacle reward drops. So, if you can tolerate playing it, it's a great way to get yourself up to par. But moving on from there, we had a different section of the TWAB titled Clear Eyes of Tomorrow that brought some really exciting news for somebody like me. And that news has to do with an upcoming damage change to the raid exotic Eyes of Tomorrow, as well as a change to its drop rate. Here's what Bungie had to say. We have received reports that Eyes of Tomorrow was doing less damage on bosses after update 3.1.1. We acknowledged that there was no intended damage reduction and started investigating a fix. We discovered there was a modifier incorrectly placed on the weapon that was reducing its damage to mini-boss combatants like the bosses you find in a lost sector. We have a fix ready in Hotfix 3.1.1.1, which is currently scheduled for Tuesday, March 23rd. Additionally, there are reports that this was also affecting damage against raid bosses, but Bungie's internal team tests were unable to reproduce this and didn't find any changes to the damage outputs against big baddies like Shanix while using several different combinations of buffs and debuffs. So if you're somebody out there who has gotten your hands on Eyes of Tomorrow and feel like it could be doing better damage against mini bosses like Lost Sector bosses, well, you're not crazy. It actually is dealing way less damage against those, and Bungie has devised a fix. It'll be going into effect next week. Really happy to hear about that. But it's not the only feedback that Bungie has addressed here. We're also going to be getting a drop rate change. Bungie goes on to state that they've seen a lot of feedback that Eyes of Tomorrow isn't really dropping for many players despite numerous clears on multiple characters. Well, they went digging into this and discovered that their bad luck protection was mistakenly being applied on a per character basis across your entire account. Now, for those who don't know, Bungie implemented bad luck protection quite a while ago. That basically made it so that if there is a raid exotic drop, every time you run the raid and don't get that drop, your chances of getting that drop increase. Well, it seems like that the chance for increase was tied to your character rather than your account, and so Bungie has made a change here. They give us a TLDR. In the upcoming Hotfix 3.1.1.1, we've collapsed all of your account raid completions into a single value, so bad luck protection applies properly no matter which characters you run the raid on. This also applies retroactively. So if you still haven't gotten a drop yet, you will have the corrected drop chance after the fix goes live, depending on how much raiding you've already done. This is incredible news. Again, like I said at the beginning of this, for somebody like me who still hasn't gotten Eyes of Tomorrow. The drop chance protection, the bad luck rate, was tied to a character, so no wonder if you're running the raid 3 times a week on all 3 of your characters, you're only getting marginal benefits on a per character basis. So now all that's going to be wrapped up into your account, so it doesn't matter what character you play on. Every time you complete the raid and you don't get that exotic drop, your chances of getting that drop will increase across all characters, Really happy to hear about that. Bungie goes into some deeper information about how exactly this change works, explaining the mechanisms behind the bad luck protection and all of that. So if you want to get a deeper dive into the behind-the-scenes gears that keep this game going, make sure you go and check out this section of the TWAB. Of course, there's a link to the TWAB down in the description box below. But if you're a Guardian like me who's run Deep Stone Crypt time after time after time and been denied the sweet, sweet golden-hued reward of the Eyes of Tomorrow raid drop from Taniks, well, I'm glad to see that all of those prior raids are still going to count towards my bad luck protection when this update goes live next week. Really psyched about that. But alright, that's pretty much it for the biggest bits of news in this week's TWAP. There was one last thing to cover. You remember a couple of weeks ago when Bungie held that voting contest where you could choose the Festival of the Lost Armor, either dinosaurs versus movie monsters? Well, we've got something similar this time. Bungie is asking you, who would win in a fight between two horrifying choices? Who is the baddest baddie? Who is the most painful enemy to go up against? Who is the most frustrating enemy to encounter in Destiny right now between these two choices? The painfully thick Vex chicken wyverns or those darn teleporting bubble spamming Taken captains? You can weigh in on this debate over on the Destiny the Game Twitter page. But I personally want to see your answer down in the comments section below. But that's it, Guardians. That's it for the biggest bits of news contained in this week's issue of the Bungie Weekly blog, This Week at Bungie. That's the news, and those are my thoughts. Be sure to leave me yours down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. Now for now, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians stay frosty. I gotta go put some money on a Vex chicken.